Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'll be sharing with you how to draft a basic pencil skirt pattern in a very simple and easy way. This video is beginner friendly and very detailed, so if you're interested in learning something like this, please keep on watching. And also please hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share and turn on your post notification bell so that whenever I upload new videos you will be the first to watch it. So without further ado, let's jump straight into this tutorial. For this project, you'll be needing a pattern paper, a measuring tape, paper, scissors, marker pen, a curved or a straight rule. You will also be needing your round waist measurement, your round hip measurement, your waist to hips measurement, and your skirt length measurement. I'll be using this brown pattern paper to draft this skirt pattern. First of all, I will go ahead and roll out a line at the top of this pattern paper. This line will serve as my starting line as well as my waistline. Next, I'll go ahead and impute the vertical measurements. So from that line that I marked earlier, I will measure out 10 inches. This is the distance from my waist to my hip, and I'll mark out my skirt length. I took 25 inches and I added extra 1 inch allowance for folding allowance. So I'll just come to this side and duplicate the same thing. 10 inches, 25 inches for my length, an extra 1 inch allowance for folding allowance. Now I'll go ahead and rule out these lines like so. Next, I'm going ahead to label the lines. This is my waistline, that's my hip line, and that is my length, the length of my skirt, and the allowance. Now I will go ahead and impute my horizontal measurements. Going to the waist area, I will mark a quarter of my waist measurement. I'm working with a waist of 28. 28 divided by 4 will give me 7 inches, which I've gone ahead to mark. Going to my hip area, I will mark a quarter of my hip measurement, which is 10 inches. I'll also go ahead and mark this same 10 inches on my length area, which is basically my knee area. We'll go ahead and adjust this later, but for now we are marking 10 inches. So now we'll just connect these points together. If you're using a curved rule, it is important for you to place this curved part of your ruler towards the hip area. Do not make a mistake of placing the curved part of your ruler towards your waist area. It will not give you a good shape. So just go ahead and place it like that and connect. If you don't have a curved ruler, you can go ahead and use your straight ruler. You just try to blend that part out so that you don't have any pointy ends. So this is me going ahead to connect the rest with a straight ruler. Next, I'm going to come to the waist area and I will mark my darts. To get your dart, you divide your bust span measurement by 2. I'm working with a bust span of 7 inches. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So I'll go ahead and mark that 3.5 inches on the waistline. To get the length of this dart, I'll just come to this my hip line and I'll mark 1 inches above that line. This line will serve as my dart length. So what I'm just doing is going ahead to mark that same 3.5 around that area so that I'll have a straight line when I'm connecting. So I'll just go ahead and connect it to form a straight line. Next, I'll come to that line and I will mark ½ inches on both sides of this line to get my dart. So I am just going to connect that back to that 1 inch point that we marked earlier. At this point, our skirt is basically ready. The front part of the skirt is ready. But because we are drafting a pencil skirt pattern, I'll come towards this length area and I'll subtract 1.5 inches away from that area. If you're very curvy, go ahead and subtract 2 inches. If you're not, subtract 1 inch. Now I am going to mark 1 inches below the hip line, and I'll connect this 1 inch point to meet that 1.5 inch point. The reason why I came down by the 1 inch is to avoid pointy ends on our hips. We don't want it to be pointed when we are done making it, sewing it. So I'm just going ahead to cancel out this initial line. We will not be needing it. Next, I'll come to the waistline. Remember this 1 inch dart that we took, we are going to replace it on the side. This is because if you stitch down this dart, you're going to have a 1 inch shortage. So we are going to replace that on the side so we don't have shortages. So I'm going to mark that 1 inch down, and I'll go ahead and mark an extra 1 inch for seam allowance. So you can go ahead and add as much seam allowance as you want. You can even decide not to add any seam allowance and add it to your fabric when you're cutting, but me, I'm just going to use 1 inch seam allowance all around, and I'll go ahead and connect the points, remembering to place the curved part of my ruler towards the hip area like this, and using the straight parts to connect the rest. And this is what we'll have after connecting. So I'm just going to the waist area to extend that part. So next we'll cut this pattern out. And this is what we have after cutting. Can you see how beautiful it is looking? So next we are going to go ahead and draft the back pattern. So guys, for the back, using this pattern paper, I have gone ahead to mark out 2 inches from the center back, which will serve as my zipper allowance. So next I am going ahead to place the front skirt pattern onto this back pattern, aligning the center front to that 2 inch mark that I made. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of mark out these points: the hip point, the waist point, the length point, and the allowance point. I also go ahead and mark it out on the other side. This will serve as a guide for me so that I can rule out these straight lines. After marking these points out, I will go ahead and grab my scissors and cut around these areas. So you can go ahead and use something like a sellotape to pin down this pattern so that it doesn't move when you're cutting it, or you can just place a heavy weight on it. You go ahead and cut around these areas like you can see me doing. After cutting this out, I'll take out my front skirt pattern and keep it aside for later adjustment. Next, I'll grab my ruler and I'll connect these points that we made earlier. This is my waist area, and this is my hip area, and this is the length of my skirt. So after connecting, I'll go ahead and label my lines. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and indicate that this is my zipper allowance. And after this, I'll just take that and keep it aside and bring back the front skirt pattern. So guys, the main difference between the front skirt pattern and the back skirt pattern is just the darts. Basically the darts. For the front skirt pattern, the dart ends 1 inch above the hip line, but for the back, the dart ends 2 inches above the hip line. Another difference could be the raising and dropping of the waistline by ½ inch. This step is totally optional. I am going to be showing you how to do this, but it is totally optional. You can decide to do it or not. To do this, you come to the waistline around the center front and go down by ½ inch. Because we've gone down by ½ inch around the center front area, we have to replace that at the side. So we go up by ½ inch. So next, we'll just connect that point like so. But we're not just going to connect it like that. In order to connect that point, we'll go ahead and fold that line basically close the dart line like you see me doing. Watch carefully and you see what I'm doing. You just fold that dart line and you close it. And when you're done doing that, you take your pattern master or your ruler and you connect it. You connect that 1/2 inch towards the dart line like you can see me doing, and you also connect the other 1/2 inch towards the dart line too like you can see me doing. It's very easy and simple, guys. Just watch it carefully and you would understand. Opening this up, you can see that there is no shortage around the dart area. Everything is well blended like you can see. So the next thing I'll do is grab my ruler and extend that 1/2 inch point towards the seam allowance area. I'm just going to blend it properly around the seam allowance area, and I'll go ahead and cut around this line. Like I said earlier, this step is optional. You can decide to not do this, especially if you want to attach this to a bodice. Okay guys, so coming back to the back skirt pattern, what I'll do is go to the waist area and just indicate where my waistline ends at 7 inches. So next I am just going to mark 1/2 inch above that line. This is because we raised the front skirt pattern by 1/2 inch around the waist area. So next I will just go ahead and mark out my dart at 3.5 inches. I'll just mark out that same 3.5 inches around that area, and I will come up 2 inches above the hip line like I said earlier, and I'll connect that line together like this to form my dart. So this is me marking 1/2 inch on both sides and connecting it to that 2 inch mark above my hip to form my dart. So after doing this, I'll go ahead and blend in that 1/2 inch that we marked around the side to one of the dart legs like so. So like I said, the reason why we extended this is because we raised the side by 1/2 inch so that it would tally when we are sewing it. For the zipper area, I'll come to the waistline and I will mark 1 inch on that waistline. Next, I'll go to the hip area, that hip line, and I'll mark 1.5 inch on the hip line. And going to the hemline, I will mark 1 inch on the hemline, and I'll connect those points together. The reason why I extended the hip area by an extra 1/2 inch is so that it will accommodate the butt well, eliminate zip puckering, and just give us a nice fit around the body. So I'm just going ahead to connect it like this. Taking my scissors, I will cut around these areas. So this is me cutting it out, and once we are done cutting, this skirt pattern is ready. And after cutting, guys, this is what we have. Our back pattern is ready. So guys, I have just gone ahead to draw in my grain line and wrote down my annotations indicating which part is my center back and how many pieces I'm supposed to cut. I also indicated my size, the size, and the name. This just helps me to know which pattern is for who so that I don't end up confused. So guys, as you can see, this pattern is very simple to create, and it won't even consume your time. And if you have any questions or suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comment box. I will go through them. If you found this video helpful in any way, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, share this video with your friends, and turn on your post notification bell so that you'll be the first to watch my video when it comes out. And I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.